Welcome everyone to the IYB. My name's Joel, and with me today I have Miss Patricia Guerra. We've known each other for about 12 years.
Something like that.
Something like that.
2014.
Started off in the real estate world,
yes,
and progressed to, you introduced me to, I'd say probably one of my first early mentors, which was Mr. Mike Bridges, and oh man, so many valuable lessons.
Yeah.
So how's everything going? What's your story?
My story, I got in real estate in California. I started Texas real estate in California in 2006.
Was that a pain crossover from California to here?
Yeah. We had a big moving truck. It was a military move.
Yeah.
So we had a big moving truck, and then we had walkie-talkies, and we would keep in contact that way, and it was about 24-hour drive.
Yeah.
And
that's nice, right?
Yeah. So we did that. It was great. Yeah. Especially when we got to the mountains and we saw all the little water hoses in the mountains, just in case you overheat.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, oh, that's a thing here.
Happened to us one time.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it's no good.
Yeah, no good.
No good. So, yeah, I got contacted by a company, and they said, hey, we know that you've never done this before. You've been in purchasing, buying all your whole career, but why don't you come over here to this construction company? So I went and didn't get to meet with the girl that day.
Okay.
She was out, and I had to not do my interview, and then she called me back, and I was 4 months pregnant when I interviewed for that job. And I was so nervous because I was like, nobody's going to hire me. They know I'm leaving. So Nicole was the one. And we met, we interviewed. I told her that I would bake her chocolate chip cookies.
That's a win.
Yeah. And then,
That's it, get it.
And she said that she ran back to Jack and said, I want her. So they hired me knowing that I was going to be leaving soon, which was, I don't know who does that. Nicole does that.
Yeah.
And best job in my life. Best job. It was Campbell Construction Company, and I was the superintendent's assistant for the plumbing side. So I would do all that stuff, and then they became my people, and I had my rough superintendents and my finished superintendents, and we were at the production meetings every week, and then just kind of all merged, and I was in the front, and then I was in the back in customer service, and then we acquired a framing company, so I was doing plumbing, framing, and concrete service dispatch. So it was just there. I just started doing it.
So you got a full scope of building homes, construction, the full deal.
Yeah, well, in California, we were doing the tract homes.
Okay.
Kind of like the Lennar and the D.R. Horton are doing here. That's all we were doing over there.
Okay.
So we were doing entire phases. And I would just dispatch the people out there. People would call and, hey, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, yeah, da, 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 we can do that. And, hey, go take care of Mrs. Wilson. You know, she's got a backup.
You learned a lot from that experience?
Yeah, they taught me a lot. It seemed weird. I could do no wrong there. It was odd. But I loved it. Favorite job. They threw me a party for my maternity thing going away. They threw me a welcome home party. They threw me all kinds of parties. And it was my first construction gig, really.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I moved back. We had military orders. I was married to a guy in the Navy. We had military orders. We came back over here. And I started working for an engineer because one of my friends was working for an engineer. She had worked for him since she was like 16. And she needed somebody to cover her while she went on maternity leave. So I went in, just kind of swept under the rug. And I started working at Voss Engineering.
Okay.
I worked there for 6 weeks or 6 months or however long her maternity leave was. And then from there, that's when I met Mike Bridges. Because he was working with the bosses.
Okay.
So he was working with them, and my friend's mom, Claudia, she's like, Mike needs a girl. And I was like, well, okay. Sent him my resume, talked on the phone a few minutes. He said, come on in Wednesday or whatever day it was. Okay, cool. So I went in, and he just said, hi, nice to meet you again. Nice to talk to you. His son was there, Chris. He was the superintendent. Chris, give her a key. We're leaving. We'll be back. You're hired. And that was it. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? He's like, answer the phone. Somebody calls. You don't know what to do. Take a message.
Mike was very kindly blunt that way, wasn't he?
It's probably why we got along so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't worry about if you were offended.
Yeah.
Worried about if the message was getting across.
And so that's one question I wanted to touch on is I would say probably a minimal tolerance for those kind of things in your life. Things that, like I said earlier, kind of like if things are messing with your energy, your vibes, you cut those things off very quickly. Sooner, like I don't say you let people know, but maybe you let people know that, hey, this is not for me. You're not for me.
I don't do that intentionally.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it is good.
I'm practicing to become that.
It's good. It's good, but it comes at a price, right?
Everything comes at a price.
right.
But I think even being fake, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
No.
but I feel like when you accept too much in your life, geez, like when are you going to live for yourself, right?
It's
but,
hard.
But what do you think are the consequences on the other end?
There's consequences to all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a people pleaser. You're a doormat. People like you, but you start to not like yourself
Yes.
a little bit.
Yes.
Because you get to the point where you don't know how to say no because your identity depends on it. You know, if I say no, they're going to think I'm a bad friend. If I say no, they're going to think that they did something wrong. I say yes to everybody else. Why would I say no to them? But you can't be too much on the other side either.
Yeah.
Because if you're like that, nobody's even going to come to you for anything. Oh, she doesn't even like helping, you know?
Yeah.
But like I said, it's been something that I've not wanted to learn. It's been something that stemmed from being a habitual people pleaser growing up. And that's how I survived, pleasing.
When do you feel you kind of cut that off?
After my divorce.
Yeah. I had enough.
Yeah. You learn a lot. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about if you're doing it right, I think. And I think it took me having a kid, honestly, because it wasn't just about me anymore. I might still be there, you know, taking all kinds of stuff if it hadn't have been for that. So at that point, it was just like, hey, look, if this little girl grows up and if she winds up with a guy that treats her the way I'm being treated, that will be my fault because I showed her that that was okay and it was normal, and it's not. It was for me, but I didn't want it to be for her. So it just came kind of in stages.
Yeah.
You know, just like, hey, I can't do for everybody anymore. And for a while, it's hard. For a while, those boundaries get very, very like tight, and they get very aggressive. And you think you're just protecting yourself, but you're really just being ugly to people.
Yeah.
So there is a fine balance. Like, yes, if you're not for me, if you're inhibiting on my stuff, if I'm not happy when I'm around you, it's my job to note that for myself. Like, I don't tell you automatically. I just kind of, I know. Like,
Do you think that's probably one of the biggest things people maybe construe about you? Like they maybe get wrong about you, don't fully understand?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I tend to, if there's a lot of people around, I'll be very quiet. I'm not good in crowds at all.
Yeah.
I will completely shut down. But it's just because I'm looking, I'm observing. I want to make sure that I'm safe.
Yeah.
My big thing in life is, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe right now?
In more ways, right? Like you're always like, I guess, looking for the exit, right?
Yeah.
Even in conversations, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, it's something as I mean, I don't even like other people driving me places. You know,
Control.
Like, I want to be able to leave when I want to leave.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not anybody else agrees with that or not.
Isn't that interesting though? How in life you make these shifts, like whatever you're doing in life, at some point it's going to be wrong, and you got to learn how to go the opposite, which is a challenge in raising your kids because you're trying to give them the best, but the best is going to be their worst at some point. So
Right.
What do you do?
Right. Also, you don't know what other people need.
Yeah.
You know what you need, but just because you need it doesn't mean other people need it.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of fell into problems sometimes. I had, you know, everybody has stuff growing up, but the stuff that I had growing up, I tried to protect my daughter from those things.
Yeah.
But since I protected her from those things, there were other things that I had no idea that were going on that I couldn't protect her from.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. You have to, it's very dangerous to try to be too empathetic because you wind up saying, well, if I went through that, how would I feel? Well, you're not that person. You don't see the way they see. You don't grow up the way they grew up. You don't know how they're internalizing that message. So it's hard, right?
Yeah.
Like you just can't. You can't. It's very hard. You have to ask a lot of questions.
Right.
And that takes a lot of time.
Especially in the middle of it.
Yeah. And being in real estate, you do need to connect with people. And you do need to really care about people. And it's something that takes more time. So sometimes I would catch myself maybe not making that phone call because I know we're going to connect and we're going to be on the phone for 45 minutes. I've only got 20 minutes right now. So it does come across to me, if I feel like it comes across as uncaring.
Yeah.
When it's overcaring, because I just want to make sure I'm giving you an hour. But if I can't, I feel like, oh, well,
Can't give you anything.
I can't give you anything.
Yeah.
Because it's going to...
Not my full.
Right. If I can't give you my full attention, why am I going to do you the disservice of, oh, hey, okay, I got to go.
Yeah.
What if they really need you that day?
Life's tricky that way.
It is. So, yeah, I think you're spot on as far as people taking it the wrong way. She might be unfriendly. I love people. I love connecting with people. I also love authentic people. Everything is about being real.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me if you're rude or sad or whatever, as long as you're you. You know, as long as you're real, we can work with that.
That's tough. You know, I've been trying to be a little more understanding about that and how maybe at times even I've been not real. And it usually comes from financial matters, social matters, like you're trying to fit in, you're trying to get somewhere, you compromise, and then it becomes a habit, and then you forget you're doing it, then it's dangerous.
Right.
Then you don't know who you are.
Yeah, good. Like that people-pleasing thing.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I wanna do right by you because, you know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, the problem with that is not everybody would do the same.
Yeah.
You know, there was a thing I saw that said, treat others 20% better than you would expect to account for subjective errors.
Oh, damn. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, that's very true.
You know, I don't know if this aligns with what you're saying, but my big thing lately has been trying not to put things in a constraint, in a box. So for instance, if I'm gonna fix something, this handle breaks. I'm expecting that I'm gonna fix this in 10, 15 minutes. I'm looking for this return. And I'm starting to try to learn to appreciate this thing being broken, finding the right glue, doing the research, taking my time, letting it cure, not putting a limit on it.
Right.
It's very hard to do because we're always in the hurry for the next thing, and we're always taking more and more on.
Right.
I guess what have you done to limit yourself and stay focused in life?
I do a lot of journaling.
Yeah.
I do a lot of journaling. I have good friends. You know, it's community is everything. Even if it's just one other person, somebody who really understands you, somebody who will really listen to you, somebody that knows you very well because you can't tell everybody everything.
Yeah.
I try to stay focused by just focusing on what needs to be done. You know, it's kind of like just prioritizing. And things change all the time. All the time. You know, you were talking about this cup. Yeah, you want to get the right glue. You want to do this. Perfectionism also has its... Because if you're trying to get things perfect, you never get things done.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, the broken coffee cup, right, would be, do I fix the cup? Do I throw the cup? Or do I just repurpose the cup to where I don't need to use the handle anymore?
Yeah.
Then I didn't have to fix it, and I still have my coffee cup.
This game of picking and choosing, and we're all going to be wrong at some point.
And what's important, right?
Yeah.
It's like Mike used to say, everybody's stupid, just in different subjects.
Yeah.
And he's right. He's right. Mike taught me so much.
What do you think's been your biggest lesson?
From Mike?
I think he was a bigger mentor to you. You had a lot more time spent with him. And for anybody who doesn't know, Mike Bridges was also a realtor, a broker, all around busy real estate investment kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
Very like if you knew him in the 80s and 90s, you probably could not know him.
You'd probably be very intimidated by the jet plane.
Oh, shoot.
You know, things of that nature. Mike taught me, I might cry. Mike taught me that it's okay to be yourself. And that might sound like something that's not that big of a deal. But hey, thanks. Hey. But when you're a habitual people pleaser, knowing that who you are is okay is beyond huge. And for whatever reason, Mike thought I was like the bee's knees, and he treated me like his daughter. So I would say, as far as all of that, Mike's biggest lesson to me was that it was okay to be me. He had lots of sayings: get up, show up. Discipline is doing what you need to do when you need to do it, whether you feel like it or not. That's a big one.
He was a quip, wasn't he?
All the time. All the time. He couldn't help but run a room when he was in it. It was just his natural flow. When he came to join us at Gomez Properties, it was very odd for him to sit in one of the visitor chairs and let the broker lead the meeting.
Yeah.
And he would tell me, "Oh, Patricia, it's so hard to not just say, what are you talking about? Let's get some real stuff going." But authenticity, I think, is the biggest thing that he unlocked for me. That was like, hey, you think you're being off-putting, but this works for me, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like, what? What is that all about? Like, I can be me and you're okay with that? Why? Oh, because it's cool, because you get things done. Doesn't matter.
He saw past it. He saw past the status quo.
He appreciated it.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason, he appreciated it. He wanted it that way. He wanted it to be different.
I can fully understand where he's coming from with that. I think that you gave that genuineness, that reality,
Yeah.
that honest response.
Yeah.
And I think that happens as you climb in this world, is that people see you as some kind of figure, and people now want to please you. They want to give you the right answer, not the honest answer. Mm-hmm. And
yeah.
I think that you were able to maybe deliver on those, which was refreshing to him.
Maybe.
I could see that.
Yeah, maybe. It was just a lot.
Yeah.
I learned a lot with him. And so that was, back to the first question, that's how I got started, you know. We were building all of the houses at Lago Vista. I was handling all the city stuff, the inspections, the permits, the superintendent stuff, the budgeting, the critical path, all of that. Then we had the homeowners association. So I've kind of been involved in every part of it. And I actually got my license in 2010 when I started working for him in 2009, but I couldn't even use it. And I had to let it lapse because it's expensive to have a real estate license, as you now know.
Yes.
So, so the first 2 years I couldn't do anything, and I had to let it lapse because I was so busy with his new construction, with all the new builds. And then, sadly, his company went out of business, and I reactivated my license, and I went to Gomez Properties, and I've been there ever since. Mm-hmm. With one short break in between. But, that was just me being one of those, a human, like, the grass is greener over there. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's because they were pooping over there. They were pooping all over the grass.
Yeah, fertilizer.
Yeah, so much fertilizer.
Yeah.
So then I came crawling back, and, I was accepted with open arms. Why did you leave to begin with? That was dumb. Okay, well, I know.
I do faintly remember that. I think you had some valid reasons.
Yeah.
Working with Rick has been very valuable. Yeah, he's a teacher. I hope to have him on here soon. He can just do this thing by himself. He doesn't need me, but he's always got something in the bag too.
He does.
He's always studying. He's always learning. He's always reading a book.
Yeah.
Prepping for the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to touch on one thing about real estate, because I think that real estate has this initially on, like, oh, it's a moneymaker. Oh, you see somebody who sold a multi-million-dollar home, so that equals that they made X amount of dollars. Oh, that's very, incentivizing, right? You want to get in that.
Sure.
But if you stay in long enough, you're going to run through some patches, and the economy is going to shift.
Oh, yeah.
How have you managed the changes and staying and enduring with the fact that money is not always going to be your motivator? How have you maintained? Does that question make sense?
It does make sense. And as silly as it sounds, I'm not motivated by the money. If I thought I was going to get rich doing it, I probably never would have started. I've always been very against the things of the world. And I don't know if that's just because I'm stubborn. It might be. Might just be because I'm stubborn. But things of the world have never really pulled me. Since I grew up as a horrendous people pleaser, I look to serve. And real estate keeps me, as much as sometimes I want to get out of it. I've been in it for 10 years, and I think probably every year of those I've thought about quitting. Once, twice, 10 times. But something always pulls me back. There have been plenty of times that I've thought about quitting. There have been plenty of times that I've had zero in the bank. But it's inevitable somebody will call, either somebody that I know or somebody that I know referred somebody. And I don't want that person to work with somebody who's just in it for the money.
Yeah.
It's harder. What keeps me in it is knowing that I am in it for the right reasons. I never thought I would be in sales, ever in my life. Did I ever think I would be in sales?
Yeah, you're not the suit type.
I think it's so tacky. But it's not. It's service. Because no matter what happens, I don't choose the house. And I can't say, hey, we're going to find a house in 3 months. I've had clients for 2 years before we found a house. I had a client that I didn't even know she was my client. And I would take her out looking, and we would go every weekend. And I was a new agent, so it was fine. I was like, okay, she wants to see this 300, 400, 500. Sure, let's go. I can get in now. Yeah. And I would get in, and I never knew if she was my client or not, because she owned her house, and she had it didn't look at all like she was going to sell it.
Yes.
And before I knew it, she found her own house for sale by owner. She called me, and I was like, I'm not going to get paid at all. But the funny thing is that we had developed such a good relationship that she wanted me to get paid. And I have had that happen quite a few times in my career, and it still, to this day, shocks me. Especially with all of these things, with the NAR lawsuit and all this stuff, with, you have to pay your agent, the seller has to pay the buyer's agent, A lot of people don't know that it's never been that way. You've never had to.
Yeah.
It's just the smarter way to do it. But I've had several of my buyers say, you know what, I'm going to pay your commission. I don't care if the seller doesn't want to. I will do it because I want your help. And that's what keeps me in it, is knowing that I'm going to get the answer that's good for them.
Yeah.
I
think you've built a lot of real life, real-time human relationships. Like you've seen past, because real estate is a very transactional world.
Yeah.
And to be able to give it some soul and life is once again, a little bit refreshing for people to, not just a number here. I'm not just sitting here waiting to answer the phone call.
Maybe.
How's your day going?
Yeah, maybe. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why people call me. I don't know why people still use me. I don't know how I'm still in business. I don't advertise a lot. Yeah. I really love my people. A lot of my people wanted to be agents,
Yeah.
I've had at least 5 people that I've helped buy and sell houses that are now agents.
I got a lot of satisfaction from the process. You knew me early on, like I was just soaking it up like a sponge. I loved everything about it. And then the more I got in it, the less I was gravitating toward it. And
Yeah.
I always say, it's always there on the back burner for me. Maybe one day it ignites, but it's there.
Yeah. You know, you have the love for it.
I did. I don't know if I still do. I think I do. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I get kind of like caught up in the same things. Like I just don't like the transactional stuff. I don't like marketing. I don't like having to call so many people, cold calling them. I just don't find it natural in my heart to be able to be that way.
Yeah.
For me, it feels too fake. And for others, they're just like, that's just how you do it. That's how you do the growth. And I'm just not willing to compromise on that right now.
Yeah, I've never been a good cold caller.
And the fact that you've been in it for 10 years, there's something interesting to say about anything that you do for 10 years pretty much becomes your craft. You become known for that because you've done it for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, if I do videoing and I suck and I do it for 10 years, eventually I may be decent. I'm not saying you suck, but but you know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's interesting how the craft develops over time.
Does.
Consistency, right? Mm-hmm. And you've been consistent at it, so it's part of your DNA now.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people that God gave me real estate. I didn't choose it.
Yeah.
You know, He handed it to me.
You definitely didn't choose it.
I did not choose it. I promise I didn't choose it, but He chose it for me. Like I said, there have been plenty of times that I'm just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to renew. I'm not going to take that class. I'm just going to let it lapse. Hello, I got your name from blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, man, that was a great client. I can't let their friend down. And here we go again, you know. And that's what it's been the last few years. The last few years, it's been nothing but referrals. I think the only time I ever cold called was my first 2 years in real estate. And after that, I don't think I've done another one.
Yeah.
I would do open houses, you know, I had the new construction. I had a lot of new construction, and that kind of laid the groundwork for how I work.
Yeah.
And Mike was over in Lago Vista. It was the big high-end houses. So that was my standard for everything. You know, you treat an $80,000 house just like you treat a $500,000 house, because the process is exactly the same. Exactly the same. When you first called me, it was an $80,000 house.
Yeah.
And you were upset because it was like, well, you know what? This is this. And if you can't help me, then I'm fine with that.
I do remember that. I came off very, very direct and I would say disrespectful, borderline. I wasn't trying to be, but I was set on I knew what I needed. And I just wanted to be like upfront and say, can you do this? Yes or no? That's a harsh way to like tell somebody, right? And you tolerated it, and you were like,
I thought it was funny.
Maybe you bit your tongue. Maybe, you thought it was funny. Like, look at this guy trying to be tough.
I thought it was a little hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is that people get upset. I'll say us as salespeople, okay? People in general get very upset when people come at them like that. But I think that the thing that we need to realize is that there's a reason for it. And if you're willing to take yourself out of it, and if you're willing to listen to why did you get to that point, right? That's on the other end of the phone. I'm here smiling like, man, somebody really did a number on this guy.
Yeah.
I'm laughing the whole time. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. That's fine. Yes, I can do that. But I think understanding, I think being willing to say, well, this person's not upset with me, but they are upset. And they have a reason for that. So let me not invalidate that just because I'm not having a bad day. Mm-hmm. That doesn't have anything to do with them. Just because it doesn't necessarily have anything bad to do with me, right? But if I can take myself out of it and say, you know what, you're upset, you have a good reason to be upset, and I'm not a part of that, but I'm willing to listen to you.
Yeah. You took all the steam out.
It's like, hey, yeah, I can do that. Hey, you know, all these 5 demands that you just had, I think that it's going to be easy to do. Also, you don't have to be rude about it.
Did that come with time as well, learning that? Or have you kind of always been understanding of people?
I've always kind of been a little understanding of people, only because I have had to temper myself. And I have always kind of had to take the temperature of the room first. Again, it goes back to my safety, right? So I have to kind of not be so big. So I learned, don't be so big. All of this is more important. This is not important. So I'm actually in a season of the reverse of this is important too, and then this is important. It was never like that for me. So yes, I've always been understanding of people because I've always had to be. And then after I had to be, I learned why it was advantageous. And now it's like, okay, well, now it's second nature.
Yeah.
You know, why are they upset? It's like, I can't believe this person said this. I can't believe they talked to me like that. I can't believe that they would think that about me. Well, why don't you ask some questions? Do you really want to know, or do you want a reason to complain? Mm-hmm. You know, do you want a reason to be superior to somebody else? Oh, how dare they? Well, you've probably done something that you weren't proud of at one point as well.
In some ways, is that how you would define ego? You know, you're trapped in your own ways of seeing the world, and you can't see what the other person is trying to tell you.
Yeah. And a lot of the time, it's not even on purpose. You know, a lot of people these days throw around the word narcissism.
Yeah.
Oh, if you don't think about it, you're a narcissist, you know? And everybody is a little bit of a narcissist. Everybody. It's self-preservation.
Selfishness. You need it.
We're all important.
Yeah.
You know, like, love yourself. That's ego. There's nothing wrong with it. As long as, in my opinion, as long as you're not making others less than, it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, yes, I can love myself, but that doesn't mean that you're less. You know, your feelings are valid too. Why shouldn't you be allowed to have a bad day? You know? And that was a big thing for me. When I was in school, I had a roommate, and she was always in a good mood. She was always whatever. And one day she wasn't. And I was like, man, you're not in a good mood today. And she said something very simple. She said, I don't have to be happy every day. And she walked away. And that blew my mind. I was like, what do you mean you don't have? Oh, you don't have to be in a good mood all the time. I was 21. That was when it started. I was like, wow. Blew my mind. It's like, oh, all the feelings are acceptable. I had no idea. I thought you had to be happy all the time.
That's what they tell you.
That's what they tell you. Especially when you're growing up in a Mexican household, you better just smile.
Yeah.
You know,
Como que depression.
Yeah, exactly. Slap it out of you, you know? Like, I'm going to give you a reason to cry and be sad.
Oh, yes.
You know? So, yeah, I mean, I just think that there's a lot of labels going on right now, and it's, in my opinion, it's really just too much.
I think everybody needs an answer. I think it just becomes a catch-all.
Yeah.
Narcissism, you know.
Yeah, you're a narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't do that. Oh, it's because you're a covert narcissist. It's like, what?
I do think, without getting too much into the techie stuff, but I do think with these advancements, especially with AI and the way social media is growing, the way everybody's hurt for some reason, I can see the need for counseling even more. It's going to be one of the last frontiers, I think, before, like, it's so important to know what's exactly going on with this person, because everybody's just labeling it. Everybody just needs to put you in somewhere so they can move on with their regular day. Mm-hmm. And for somebody to take the time to say, no, this is actually what's going on, is going to become more important, I think.
It is very important. The hard thing about that is that some people don't even know that they have issues because they're surviving.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, you don't know how this affected you when you were 10 years old and you're still carrying this pattern around. It's like, well, yeah, but this is why they're doing such big things. Is it survival? Is it a disguise? Maybe. Maybe it is. Does it work? Sure. Why would you want to therapy that out? Then you're not going to be good for anything anymore. You're not going to have your thing that's driving you
that
anymore.
Is true.
You know?
Yeah, you're going to be like fine with being homeless.
Exactly. You know, at what point, right?
Yeah.
Does it give you, I mean, it's just so different for everybody. You know, some people are very self-aware. Oh, well, this and this and that. But that can also be too much because you put the label on yourself.
Yeah.
I'm traumatized. I had it bad. I have a reason for being ugly to the world. And it becomes an excuse. So there's a fine line, yes.
Yeah.
You can self-reflect and you can say, well, I have a reason. Yes, your feelings are always valid. Your behavior is not always. And they're two very different things. So I think you're right. I think counseling is a big deal. But I also think that that's easier said than done because there's a lot of things that people don't realize that they're carrying. And some of those things that they're carrying are helping them. They're surviving.
I didn't think about it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, they're surviving, you know, like, yes, I hate myself, but I went and I passed this PT test with flying colors. Mm-hmm. You know, that was all my rage. What would happen if I therapied all my rage out? Well, I would be a couch potato. Like you said, I'd be complacent. So you have it's just a fine line. Everybody's just so different.
And I do appreciate that when somebody does it for that greater reason, they can find the motivation. Mm-hmm. Sure, it's easy to be fit in your 20s. Mm-hmm. Do it in your 50s and 60s. Can you do it then? Can you find a deeper reason for it?
Exactly. And, you know, people are just so different. I mean, it's just, I think that that's what it comes down to is that if everybody, I mean, there's so many billions of people. Every single one of them is different. And there's nothing, I mean, there's no such thing as common sense. You know, I learned that in my first sociology class. No such thing. Because there's nothing that's the same here and in Asia and in Africa and in China.
And we tend to make that judgment hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't believe that they would do that. I can't believe that they wouldn't do that. Well, they're not you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, how dare they not be me? You know, I'm right. My experiences are right. Yes, they are for you. But you don't know what that looks like for other people.
Yeah.
You know, and some people grew up safe and protected and loved. Some people didn't. The people that grew up safe and protected and loved can't understand why the people who didn't just can't just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Okay. I think that if they would, they could. 80% of the time. You know, it's just. And
it's part of being different. What would be your takeaway from that? Like, if you could change it, something, or you can kind of maybe tweak something into society to just see things differently, to be maybe more accepting. To what is it? Because even not accepting is part of people just being people too.
I would say willingness to understand a perspective other than your own. Just being open to it. Not even trying to understand it, but just being able to pause long enough to know that your experience and their experience are different. And just, I think that if you go into a conversation knowing that this person can teach you something if you're open to it, if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to be open-minded, I think that's huge. Because even the same situation can affect somebody completely differently.
Yeah. What do you feel that's giving you in return?
10 years in real estate. It's given me, people seem to appreciate it.
I asked the question because the premise of this show in the past has been some type of advancement or some type of advice that maybe helps you get through, and it's usually maybe money related, but this is different.
This is different.
Yeah, because you said this before. Some people are so poor all they have is money, right? And
it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And I definitely believe that. Yeah. I think the wealth that you have to carry in order to truly be wealthy has to be in about 10, 12 different, as many as you can get. Do not get caught in just the money.
No, you can't. You can't, because that changes.
I've seen a lot of people with money who are secretly miserable.
Some of them are not so secretly miserable too.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. So for me, I think that it's just, what it's given me is authentic relationships and authentic connections. I don't have a big circle, but I trust my circle unconditionally. That's what it's given me. It's given me that we can be real with each other. We can be open with each other. We can have different perspectives. We can tell each other that we think that the other is full of it.
Yeah.
And we're fine with that. We don't necessarily agree with that. But it's given me real people in my life. It's given me opportunities to learn things that I never would have learned. It's given me knowledge of things that I never even had to experience. I never had to go through certain things because I listened and I didn't do it that way.
Yeah.
You know,
You basically got in return a set of keys, and the world opened up, and
yeah, and it happens naturally. Like it's shocking every single time it happens. It's like, oh my God, and I was able to tell you everything, and I was able to do this, and I felt so close to you, and I'm like, what? I don't understand. And it's just, if I would say that I would give the world some advice, it would just be that. Just take a second and understand that it's not all about you. And it's not all about what your perspective is, you know, because I think community is everything, you know, as isolated as I can be,
Yeah.
as introverted as I can be, I understand that I would be nobody without the people that I know.
Do you think that advice who would it appeal to? Somebody who's maybe constantly hitting this block, constantly angry, constantly unsatisfied with the world?
I think so. People who don't understand why sometimes it feels like the world's out to get you. Sometimes it feels like everybody's conspiring against you.
Yeah.
And maybe there is some, you know, some days it does feel like that. But if you can just breathe, and, you know, I had a friend that tattooed right here, "This too shall pass." Mm-hmm. And I think that that's so true. You know, being able to adapt, being able to know that it's not forever, and just being able to look forward to the next big thing or the next little big thing. I mean, I treasure small moments more than big moments because they make up so much more. It's kind of like the stabilizer muscles. It's more important than you think it is, you know? So I think that, yeah, like if you feel like you're stuck, you're in a rut, everybody's out to get you, the world is so sad, nothing's going right. And it's like, well, okay, what's going right? Something's going right. Mm-hmm. Always.
Mm-hmm. You're standing, you're breathing, you're surrounded by walls of a nice climate controlled area.
Right. It could always be so much worse. You know, somebody's mom died that day. Somebody's dad died that day, you know? And it's not about like, oh, well, there's children starving in Africa. Eat your food. It's not necessarily that simple. It's gratitude is a little bit more complicated. It's just like, hey, look, it's not that other people have it worse. It's that I could be doing so much worse. And I have this is going right. Like you said, I'm in an air-conditioned room right now. I'm not under a bridge right now. Did I sell 300 houses last year? No. I sold some, and those were all very authentic, real connections. And I'm still very good friends with probably like 90% of my clients over the last 10 years. Like, I love my people.
Yeah.
I protect them. I advocate for them. I want them to have what they want. It's not about me, it's about them. And I think that's what keeps me doing it. What keeps me doing it is that it's not about me. It's like, okay, how can I help you get what you want? Your decision, I'm just gonna help you execute it.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get the team together. We'll get the title company and the lender and the buyer and the seller and all of us, and we're just gonna be one big team.
That's success, I think, because, so back to that example.
Yep.
You didn't sell 300 houses. Mm-hmm. You feel like shit. You didn't make it. You didn't do it.
Yeah, I'm not a top
You're
producer.
not a winner. You're not a top producer.
Yeah, I'm not on the magazine.
Not on the Texas Monthly.
Yeah, exactly. But I had
That's a heavy burden that we always put ourselves in. Obviously, we're not all trying to sell 300, but in some ways, we're all putting some metric or something that defines us to be successful. And what's going to be harder, I think, for the new generation coming up is that it's always in your face that somebody's winning and you're not.
Yeah.
They have something you don't have, and maybe they have something you'll probably never have.
Right.
And that's even harder because you're just getting it from every angle. Things that you didn't even care about. All of a sudden, somebody's winning an award for cupcakes, and you're like, oh, I once had an interest for cupcakes. Damn, that could have been me, you know? And you go down this rabbit hole, and that's constantly being fed.
Yeah.
So I think that because our generation kind of was without social media, it's going to be, it's a little bit easier for us to like not take these things so serious. But if you've grown up in this environment, that's got to be tough. One of the best pieces of advice my counselor gave me was, no matter where you're at, you have your high and your low. So let's say somebody is very well off, right? And they didn't make a sale. And to them, they're at their lowest point. But for you, that would be your highest.
Right.
The point is that from their perspective and their lens, they feel hurt. They're losing. And so their bottom is the same as your bottom. And that's rough. That's hard to accept. But if you can accept it, I think you build compassion and understanding with people a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's necessary.
Yeah.
But it starts with yourself, because you really can't have it for other people if you don't have it for yourself. And that's very hard sometimes.
I want to touch on one last point. The reason that we have comic book style for your naming is because you've repeatedly pushed on the premise of kindness as a superpower.
Nice. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. Where did that come from?
I have no idea.
Because it's like been a thing for you like
Really?
the last year or two.
It's one of those things, I guess. I think
even when we chatted about this podcast, you're like, just be kind. And I'm like,
well,
got it.
I think it's because one of my kettlebell instructors gave me that advice. I was very down on myself. I went to go get certified as a kettlebell instructor, and I didn't make the cut the first time. And I called my instructor, my main instructor, and he just heard me talking, and he said, you know, Patricia, I'm just going to say, just be kind to yourself. And I probably cried for about 3 hours after that. And I didn't realize how impactful that was. And ever since then, it's kind of been like, well, yeah, kindness is a superpower. And I think that even though I didn't realize it until you said it, I guess it has been a couple of years that it's been like that, to where it's been more and more and more. I think it's because the world keeps getting uglier. I think it's because the opposite of kindness is starting to get a lot more traction.
Yeah.
It's starting to become more acceptable to be ugly to people. Keyboard warriors, hate, divisiveness, all of these things are starting to come so much easier to the world. And that's be kind. You can get so much more with kindness, you know.
It is a superpower too, because
It
it's
is a
hard to be
superpower.
kind.
It is so hard sometimes.
And as you said, probably harder to be kinder to yourself.
It is. It is.
As they say, hurt people hurt people.
They can, you
Yeah.
know, and like you said, with the counseling, you know, you have to heal. Heal, because if you don't heal, you're going to bleed on people who didn't cut you. And it does happen. I see that every day, you know, all day long. It happens. Everybody sees that all the time, whether they realize they're seeing it or not. That's what they're seeing.
Yeah.
I have been hurt. I don't care about that, so I'm going to hurt you. Or you. I don't even know you. I can be mean to you. But it takes much more to be kind. And it's so unexpected. People don't expect it anymore. So it really is a superpower now, because nobody expects it. It's like, you're being nice to me.
Yeah.
You know, you offered me a cup of coffee. You opened the door for me. You know, like the little things that people take for granted, those are the biggest things that you can do for them. If you really care, and if you can really just put yourself in that place and have a little bit of grace and know that, you know what, I'm not perfect either. I have done some stuff that I'm not going to tell anybody ever, you know, and I'm still loved. You know, I think that's everything. You know, being able to be kind in a world that's getting meaner and meaner every single day, it's the hill that I want to die on. You know, I don't want to be just somebody else who got caught up into the evilness and the ugliness and the hatred. I want to remain. I want my heart to stay intact, because I'm the one that has to carry it around.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm busy taking in all and ingesting all of this person's wrong, that person's wrong, this person's stupid, that one's a moron, that's not helping anything.
Yeah.
I think for me, it helps just to know that everybody really is, I know it sounds corny, everybody really is doing the best that they can with the tools that they have had,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And
I think I've always said one of the hardest things to be is a judge, because to be a judge, theoretically, you'd have to go back to where they started. Mm-hmm. Like you said, maybe they weren't raised right. Maybe they didn't have their parents. Maybe they grew up poor. Maybe they got beat up because they looked a certain way.
Mm-hmm. They may not even remember. It
Yeah.
could be something that happened when they were 2 years old,
Yeah.
10 years old, 9 years old, something they blocked out
Yeah.
on purpose. In which case, it might never come up in therapy. How do you fix that? Is it something that needs to be fixed? Or does it take all kinds? I think it takes all kinds. And I think that that's part of what keeps me going, is that knowing that it does take all kinds. You know, if everybody was nice, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
If everybody was an ass, it wouldn't work. It takes shades of gray everywhere for all of it to work as one big spectrum, one perfect, beautiful rainbow, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't have a rainbow with just one color. You need all of them.
And I think the opposite of you like looking at the world harshly and giving people names and whatever reason things are not working out your way, to say things are perfect, like this is good. That's a whole new perspective of looking at it. Maybe that's a start on being kind to someone.
Yeah.
It is perfect. It is exactly the way it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it doesn't make sense to me, but
Yeah.
that doesn't make it wrong.
Yeah.
You know, wrong is something that's very subjective.
Perfection almost is to have everything in the blend.
What fun is that?
Yeah.
It's not fun. You know, we grow through struggles. We need them.
Yeah.
We need struggles. Otherwise, we can't be well-rounded. You know, so yeah, I mean, thank you. I love the comics. But yeah, no, I don't know that I really realized that whole kindness superpower thing, but I will wear that cape, you know, because it takes a lot to be kind.
Yeah.
And there have been many times, I'm sure that there's some people on here who's like, she is not kind all the time. She's not, you know, but nobody's perfect, and everybody sometimes lets their little triggers get in the way, and I think that's fine too, as long as you're willing to, okay, I was wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I was wrong. Please forgive me. You know, I'm going to have a harder time forgiving myself than you're going to have forgiving me, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I think kindness is a superpower, because it's so hard to do in a world that's constantly telling you that you are right and everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the message.
Mm-hmm.
The message is, oh, you're right. Your feelings matter. Your behavior matters. What you're doing matters. What you're doing matters. Well, everybody else is somebody too. And we all have to work together. So we can just try to maybe, like I said, just be open-minded. You know, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Patricia,
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you.
Always a valuable and very, I'm always learning from you.
Thank you.
Hopefully you guys are watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thank you for your time. Hopefully it was just as beneficial as it always is for me. Y'all have a good one.